Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the Creative Naturally podcast. My name is Bex. I'm coming to you from a very rainy and autumnal Melbourne, Australia, or just outside of Melbourne, Australia. And I'm a 29-year-old crafty lady, and I share my crafty adventures with you guys. So far it's been mainly knitting. But hopefully some new sewing projects will be in the work very soon. If this is your first time watching, welcome, and for anybody who has watched previously, then thank you so much for coming and spending some time with me. So yes, if you have watched this podcast before, you will know that I've been away for almost 4 months now actually. I've been travelling in India and also in England and Sweden with my partner Tom, and I am English, and so I was heading back home to visit my family back in England, and we arrived back into Australia maybe 5 or 6 days ago now, so the jet lag is still real. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. this morning, bright and chirpy and feeling like it was 9 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, the jet lag is very much still real, but I feel a lot more like myself now than I did. And yes, so you can find me on Ravelry as Rebecca SJS, and you can find me on Instagram as Bex_in_real_life. I'm most active on those two platforms. And the show notes for this podcast will be below in the information bar below. So, if I look down here, it's because I've got my notes on my iPad. So, it's so lovely to join with you guys. It's been just under 2 weeks since I last recorded, and I really wanted to get another episode up before I head back to Melbourne, because I'll be staying with my friend Emily for the next few days, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be moving into a lovely little room in the south side of the city in Melbourne, in Caulfield, with our friends, probably in the 1st of June. So it's all happening. It's all going to be a bit manic. I've been chucking out so much stuff. I came back and chucked out a lot of kind of clothes that I don't wear so much, and been really trying to limit the amount of things that I own, which was actually really liberating. Just in readiness for moving again. We've been very transitory, I guess you'd say, for the last few years. So we spend part of the year in Melbourne and then part of the year here, which is actually where I am recording, which is in a beautiful little village in rural Victoria, about 2 hours outside of Melbourne, where this is Tom's family home, where he grew up. And you can actually see a really beautiful wall behind us, and Tom's dad completely built this house from an old tiny little wood and tin church that used to be here. So he actually laid this wall and built this whole area. It's super, super cool. So I like coming and staying here. It's a really nice space. I have got one finished object to share with you guys today. It's actually a design project that just kind of popped into my mind, and it is this little hat here, and this is one of 2 samples that I'll be making for this hat, and the pattern will be available on Ravelry probably in the next month or so. I'm calling this, for now, I'm calling it the Leafy Vines Hat. It's got this really sweet simple lace panel, which is kind of like a centre stitch and then little leaves coming off, with reverse stockinette, and I love how the decreases came out as well. It came out in this kind of flower star shape, which is beautiful. And the yarn that I used was a skein of Manos Maxima, so Manos del Uruguay Maxima, which is their kind of single ply 10 ply yarn, so worsted weight yarn. And yeah, it's really beautiful, really squishy. It has a tendency to pill like nobody's business. I actually made a jumper out of this, a different colourway of this yarn, and it pilled so much. And yeah, so I would recommend it really for accessories over garments. But yeah, this makes a really beautiful hat. I'll also be doing another sample out of some Cascade 220 for my friend Emily's new knitting shop that will be opening up in Melbourne very soon. You guys will be the first to know as soon as I can share more details about that, but it's very exciting. So I'm going to be doing lots of sample knitting for her. So I will be making a version of this hat as a slouchy hat as well. And I'll show it to you how it sits currently. So it's just a really lovely fitted beanie. It sits completely over the top of my ears, which I really like, but it's not too big. So yeah, I really love this hat. And I'm also going to be doing a take it off. I'll also be doing a slouchy version with a nice big pom-pom on the end as well, because I think this would work really beautifully as a slouchy hat as well. So yeah, it's just a really beautiful, simple design, and I've used this this lace pattern a few times. I actually used this lace pattern on a pair of socks that I designed when I first started knitting socks. Really simple red socks, stockinette socks with this lace panel at the back. It's very, very sweet, and it just creates this really beautiful kind of fitted, almost ribbed effect. And yeah, this is blocked. I blocked it quite lightly, and it kind of really beautifully bloomed, so very happy with it. I love Manos yarns. It's all kettle dyed and it's fair trade as well. I talk about them quite a lot. If you've watched previously, I actually just finished a cardigan. It's that I never know how to say it. Smaragd cardigan, and it was out of their 4-ply version of this. Actually, it's not this yarn, it's similar. It's the 4-ply Manos del Uruguay. It's fino, so it's got a silk content as well, whereas this one is 100% merino, and it's a Uruguayan company. So yeah, I ended up with, I think, probably about a third of a skein left after this one. So mine's going blank. The slouchy version with the pom-pom will still be a good one skein wonder, and it would actually, I think, work really nicely for hand spun as well. So I would actually really love to see it made up in hand spun yarn. I think it would have a really beautiful texture. So that is my finished object for this podcast. Alright, what else should I show you? I'll start on works in progress. So I've had a fair amount of knitting time. I did quite a lot of knitting on the flight. We flew from England, so it was a happy 21 hours on the aeroplane, so I got quite a lot of knitting done. So I've got three works in progress that I've been knitting on, enough to share with you guys. I've got some other baby knits that I've been that's on the needles, but I haven't really worked on them that much. I actually really need to finish those, so I'll share those with you next time. But for now, what should we start with? I'll start with the Find Your Fade, just because you haven't seen this one for a while. So I started knitting the Find Your Fade at the end of December last year, just before New Year's, and I was so close to finishing before we left for travelling, but didn't manage it, and so it's been in hibernation, all packed up in our big tub boxes that all of our stuff is in while we're travelling, and I just managed to get it out of storage. So it's living in this beautiful little bag that I made, and yeah, I'll show you. It's absolutely massive, so I'll probably stand up and show you what it looks like. So this is where I'm at so far. It's all a bit of a tangle. There we go. So that is what I'm working on. This is the section, so this is my needles just here, and this is the whole thing. Stand on my bed so you can see. It's huge. Absolutely massive. So it's basically a giant asymmetrical triangle basically. So that will be the point that sits at your lower back, and then I'll end up casting off this full section here, probably after another 30 rows or so. So yes, I'll get resituated. You probably would have seen quite a lot of Find Your Fades over the last few months. It was a knit along. The designer is Andrea Mowry, who's actually one of my favourite designers. She makes the most beautiful things. You should totally go and check her out. And she came up with this pattern, and it was I think it was a knit along. It wasn't a mystery knit, I don't think, but it was a knit along. So I was creating it with the knit along, and some of the colours that people were working with were so beautiful. I went completely out of my comfort zone with this pattern. I had quite a few colours that I just wanted to use up, and I did just want to try something new. If you've watched previously, I often work with quite muted tones, neutrals, plums, kind of autumnal shades, very much autumnal shades. And so I wanted to do something completely different. And though it was really fun to knit and to work with different colours, I would say that I will probably stop myself from doing that in the future, because I just really don't know if I will wear this piece. And when it comes to making, I like things to be really usable. Like for me, I love the process, but I am very much a product knitter. I want to be creating things that I'll actually use. I like, even though I love purchasing things, I actually really enjoy not having too much stuff. And there's also a reason for that, which I'll share later on in the General Waffle section. But yeah, my aim is to really not own that many things, so I want to be very careful with the garments and accessories that I'm actually creating. So this one might well end up being a gift knit, and I have two friends who I have been toying with backwards and forwards which one might receive it. I know that both of them will absolutely love it. But I will give you a rundown of the different yarns that I've used. This one here is Typewriter by Hedgehog Fibres. These are all 4-ply, I think they're all 4-ply sock yarns actually. Yeah. So yeah, Typewriter by Hedgehog Fibres, which is this really beautiful kind of white grey speckled yarn. And then this one here is Gregoria Fibres in one of her madder colourways. So it's a naturally dyed yarn, and it's dyed with madder. And this one here is, so the really vibrant speckled yarn here, is Wren and Ollie in her lollipop colourway. And that leads into this awesome mustard colour here. It's getting a bit washed up. It's actually quite vibrant. There you go, that's more like it. So this one here is Hedgehog Fibres in the pollen colourway. And then this one here was some leftover Manos del Uruguay Alegria, which is their sock base, and I cannot remember the colourway for that one. I think they just do numbers for the Alegria. And then that one leads into the final colour that I'm doing, which is this really beautiful kind of burnt coppery colour that I'm still working on. It's got this beautiful kind of different tones, and this is by Fibre Revolution, and I can't remember the colourway, I'm afraid. But it's got lots of beautiful kind of almost greys, burnt coppery oranges. It's really, really lovely. So this has just come out of hibernation, so I've only done probably about 10 rows on it. They are big rows. I'm currently on the last lace section, as you can see here, which is a really simple eyelet lace. Big eyelets. And the design is basically you kind of decrease, and then this spine that runs all the way down will meet the edge, and at that point you cast off. So I'd say I only have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, about 35 stitches left. And I think it's a decrease every row. So yeah, around about 35 rows left before I can cast this one off. And how the hell I'm going to block this, I do not know. I have a feeling I'm probably going to have to do the old peg it to the washing line situation, because it is just huge. But I'm really excited to get this one off the needles. It's been a really good, fun project. I was really enjoying it before I went travelling. Now it's kind of a I just want to get it off the needles situation, especially since I realised I probably wouldn't wear it myself. This is a big gift knit. Like, I don't know if I would have chosen to create a shawl this size if I knew that I wasn't going to wear it. But, you know, live and learn. Alright. Take a sip. I don't know if you can hear, but I've got chickens outside and also the rain on the tin roof. It's been raining so much today. Looks very grey out there. So next I will talk about my Dawe pullover, which is this one here. It's exploding out of this beautiful project bag. Again, this is made by my friend Em, who I'll be staying with for the next few days. She has a Etsy shop called Maker Maker, or Hello Maker Maker, and this is her little tag just here, Maker Maker. And she made this out of a really beautiful rifle paper co linen print, and it's gorgeous. So this is my Dawe pullover by Amy Miller. You can find it on Ravelry just as Dawe, D-A-W-E. And it's a really beautiful pullover, quite a simple silhouette with slits up the side. So the idea being it'd be a really beautiful layering piece. And the sample that's in the pictures has a higher front than the back. I've actually decided to reduce the length and have the back as the same as the front. I just think I'd prefer it that way. And I am knitting this out of, well, my yarn's now skeined up, but this beautiful squishy cake, which is Tamar Lustre by Blacker Yarns, and the colourway is Otterly. And I picked up 4 skeins, yeah. So I got this as a Christmas present from my mum and my stepdad in England, and they sent it over for me. And this is a beautiful, mind gone blank, a beautiful English company. You should check out Blacker Yarns if you haven't already. They've got a great website and lots of different yarn options. Their yarns are really beautiful and rustic, kind of farm yarns, but it's incredibly soft. Like this Tamar Lustre blend it's 100% new wool, yeah, 100% pure new wool, and it's very fluffy. You can see the halo up there, and it's a worsted spun, so it's really loosely plied. It's got a lot of fibres there, but it's actually incredibly soft. It kind of reminds me a little bit of mohair. It might aggravate some people, and it might well aggravate me a little bit around the neck, but I do get used to jumpers that are a little bit scratchy to begin with. My body gets used to them quite quickly, but I just loved working with it. It's so fantastic, and it's kind of fibrous enough that you can just spit splice the strands together, so there's hardly any ends that I need to weave in, which is fantastic. And if you don't know what spit splicing is, it's when you break the ply, so one of the plies, and then break another ply on the other side, and you actually just put it in your mouth, use some spit, and put the 2 plies together on top of each other and just rub them. It's basically felting the 2 strands together. And yeah, with yarns which aren't too heavily processed, it probably wouldn't work so well with like a sock merino yarn. But it just means that you basically don't have to weave in many ends at all. So it's one of my favourite ways of doing end weaving in. So I have got 2 more skeins left, and I should have plenty left over, I think. And I'll show you where I've got to. This is a crazy garment, so you probably won't be able to see much, but I am on the front section, just here, and I've completed the back section already. The construction was actually one of the things that I really liked about this. I wanted to try a a pullover which wasn't raglan, so didn't have the diagonal increases and decreases here. I wanted to try something different to see if it fit me better. I find that raglan sometimes doesn't fit so well for me. So this is knit flat but picked up instead of seamed. So I knitted the back first, which is this big section here. Absolute ton of purls, as you can imagine. So I've had a lot of practice at getting my purls a bit faster and better. And it has these beautiful, I'll show you, has this really beautiful moss stitch edging all the way along the edge of the front and the back on both sides, with the idea being that you basically seam up to a section here, and then this is like hangs and flows and is open, so you can see your top underneath. So yep, I've got the back here with some nice ribbing, and I'm at the front now, and I'm almost at the ribbing. I've got 5 more rows before I start the ribbing at the front section, and then it will be just a little bit of seaming along the sides here. Show you, just give you a bit more idea of the shape. So I'll be seaming down the sides, and then I'll be casting on for the sleeves and the neckline, and then it'll be done. So this is how the yarn is knitting up. It's got this really beautiful fluffy kind of halo to it. Really beautiful kind of natural tones of grey, kind of like a warm oatmeal-y grey, which I absolutely love. And I just know it'll block out so beautifully, especially, I mean, my stitches are relatively even, but, you know, there are some, I like how you can see that, you know, there's some kind of larger and smaller stitches, so that will all even out once it's been blocked. So yeah, it's really actually surprisingly knitting up very fast. I remember when I realised that there was going to be that much purling, I did kind of reconsider almost this pattern, but actually it's been really fun, really enjoyable, and it's been great travel knitting as well. It's at the point now where it's a bit cumbersome, kind of knitting backwards and forwards, just because it's basically a massive giant rectangle, and if you're a knitter you'll know what knitting sleeves is like, where you have to kind of move the knitting backwards and forwards, rotate it so that you can get to the right section of your work. So it's a bit like that at the moment, and it'll be like that for the sleeves as well, but hey ho. So yes, I'm knitting this on my higher interchangeable sets, and this is, let's have a look, 3.5 US 4s, and these are just the regular higher, so they're not the sharps, and they're actually working really beautifully for this yarn. I knit with metal needles like 99.9% of the time, and especially with this yarn I'd really recommend using metal needles because it's quite grippy, but it's perfect with these. And yeah, not much else to say about that one really. I'm really excited about having this off the needles, and I am really enjoying the process as well, but I just am so looking forward to having the finished object. So yeah, super excited, and again it's barely fitting in this project bag now. I can't even zip it up, so that's the best it's going to get. What should I talk about next? Okay, so I have one more work in progress for you guys, and that is the Docklight Pullover, which is a Brooklyn Tweed pattern, and I cannot remember for the life of me what the designer's name is. I will write it down below here. It was one of the Wool People patterns. I can't remember which one. It's been around for a little while. It's been in my queue for absolutely ever. And I've been making quite good progress on this actually. I'll show you. It's very thick, and it's quite a rustic yarn that I'm using, so it's going to be interesting to see how the drape works at the end. I'm a little bit nervous that it's going to be quite kind of cardboardy. I'm hoping that the wool will soften up quite a lot once it's been washed, so fingers and toes crossed. The wool is New Lanark, which is a historical mill in England. Is it England or Scotland? Might be Scotland actually. Yeah, I think it's Scotland. So New Lanark, you can actually purchase from their website. I think it's New Lanark Shop if you pop that into Google, and they've got a selection of beautiful yarns, quite rustic, really gorgeous. They've got some beautiful heathered yarn colours as well. Their website is www.newlanarkshop, spelt NEWLANARKSHOP.co.uk. So yes, and this is the Aran. I'll show you this is what's left of, I think, my second ball of yarn. And this is their Aran weight, and it's 100% pure new wool, and there's 160 meters per 100 grams. And it, as you would imagine, it's hand wash only. It's not superwash treated. So this is what the yarn looks like. It's got so many beautiful colours in there. It's got some really quite vibrant yellows, as well as kind of tealy blues and quite foresty greens, and even some little specks of red in there as well. It's really beautiful. And I am just going to turn my iPad back on. There we go. I have made quite good progress on this actually. It's knitting up quite fast. I have to do it in small amounts because it does aggravate my arms and my shoulders quite a lot. Just from, it's basically like glorified rib all the way, and I'm using, I think, 4mm needles with an Aran weight yarn, so it's really quite kind of compacted. And this is where I've got so far. So I've gone quite a long way. I've got, I think, 12 inches or 14 inches of this pattern to do. It's got this really sweet lacy pattern, and then brioche stitch throughout. Really pretty. And yeah, it's just knitting up really nicely. It's got some ribs, so I'm working bottom up, and it's just going to be a really good cozy winter kind of farmyard sweater. I'm really happy with it. And if you can see, it is just so squishy. I decided to go, I scaled up. I think I've gone for, well, I can't remember what size it was, but I went for 4 inches of positive ease or something like that, so the same as what the model was wearing. Not the size, but the positive ease, because I have seen it made with less positive ease, and I just didn't like the kind of elasticy fitted shape. It really wouldn't work for my body shape, so I do want it to be an oversized sweater. So I'm thinking what I might do is have oversized shape for the body and then have it more fitted for the sleeves. But we shall see. I might well just stick to the original instructions. But yeah, it's coming up really nicely. It's got kind of mainly lace sections at the front and the back, and then it's got these larger rib sections, which is fisherman's ribs, so it's a brioche stitch on the sides. I just love the colours in this yarn. It's kind of not, it's getting blown out a little bit. It's not as vibrant on my computer screen at least, but I'm really happy with how this is going. And this is being housed in a very special project bag, which my granny made for me and gave to me while I was in England. She made this herself, and it's got a really lovely little strap, and inside here it's fully lined with a fabulous little pocket in there, so it really fits this jumper really nicely because it's a nice big chunky size. So the next thing that I want to share with you guys is kind of acquisitions. I'll puddle it together, but I had some fun a couple of days ago where I naturally dyed some sock yarn that I had purchased a little while ago. I had purchased 8 skeins of undyed sock yarn that I wanted to do some dyeing experiments on, and I decided to dye up 3 skeins of sock yarn with some avocado dye. And if you follow me on Instagram, especially on my Instagram stories, you would have seen the little video that I created there. But this is the result. It came out this really beautiful kind of tan pinky colour. It's kind of darker in real life. Don't know if you can see, that's kind of more like it. But it's kind of like an orangey tanny pinky tone. Really pretty. And yes, this was the result of 2 bathes to bathes in avocado dye. I can't think of the words. So I didn't use that many avocado pits or the peel on the first attempt, so it came out a very, very light creamy tone, and I wanted a bit more colour depth to that, so I decided to re-dye it with the rest of the avocado pits and skins that I had, and it came out this beautiful colour. I was expecting something more pinky, but it was my first experiment and I was completely open to whatever came out of it. It is a really nice neutral colour actually. It's not something that I would naturally purchase, but I do really like it, and I think it will make a really nice loose kind of flowy cardigan. And yeah, so it will be making, I made 3 skeins so I could make a kind of long cardigan with it. And the yarn is a 4-ply Australian merino. Has it got nylon in it as well? I think, yeah, it's an Australian merino nylon blend. It isn't superwash, so it's a hand wash. And what else to say about it? Yeah, it was so much fun to practice dyeing. I've never really dyed wool before. I've dyed some fabrics and things in the past, just with beetroot and some other things like that. I don't think I've tried avocado before. But it was really fun just seeing the yarn kind of change colour in the pot, and just the whole process was really enjoyable. So I do want to try out some more natural dye experiments in the future. And yeah, I just love the multi-tones in here. Like there's some sections which are a lot darker, and then there's some other sections which had kind of floated on the surface which don't have as much colour. And I really love that about kind of indie dyed yarn or small batch dyed yarn. And yeah, so I'm super excited with this. It was a really good fun experiment. I did it a couple of days ago, so I was heavily jet lagged and had been up since like 4 o'clock in the morning as well, and it was really nice, kind of pepped me up. And it dried nicely in front of the potbelly stove, so I didn't have to wait too long for it to be dry. So yeah. The next kind of acquisition is actually a real acquisition, and it is a beautiful skein of a homespun house, which if you follow Molly on YouTube, she's got a wonderful kind of vlog podcasting channel. You should totally go and check her out. And she sent me this skein of her yak fingering weight yarn, which is a 70% superwash merino, 20% yak and 10% nylon, and this is in her ash colourway. It's this beautiful kind of purpley, blacky grey variegated skein. It's so incredibly soft, super soft. I imagine this will become a shawl of some kind. There's 425 meters on here, and this was such a sweet surprise. It was actually it came in the mail while I was away, and Molly had sent it to me as part of the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted, which was a fair while ago now, and it was so lovely to receive it. So I'm super excited to have this in my stash. I love her little labels as well. It's so sweet. So thank you so much, Molly. I'm going to enjoy knitting with this so much. I need to have a little look and see what I'm going to make, and I need to get some things off of my needles. Super sweet, thank you. So yeah, first time I'll ever have knit with a bit of yak, which is very exciting. And that is all of my yarny acquisitions for this week. And finally, I want to share with you guys a little bit of General Waffle. Yeah, just to let you know that we will be moving to Melbourne, as I shared previously, and we'll be there for probably the next 4 or 5 months, and then we will be coming back up here to Ruffy, which is where I am filming right now, Tom's parents' place, where we will be working the cherry harvest again, and all of the money from kind of now until the end of December, January time will be going towards our tiny house build, which we'll be building in probably the end of January, early February and onwards next year, which is super exciting. I don't know if you guys have heard about tiny houses. If you're American, you probably have. There's quite a big movement in America and also Canada, and there's more popping up in Europe and Australia as well. But tiny houses are basically a way of creating your own home and getting off the rental market without having to go through kind of planning permission and all of that palaver. And it's done by basically creating a home on a trailer. It's basically a tiny house. Like, it doesn't look like an RV. It's a house with a sloping roof, or whichever roof you like, but it's quite often made out of timber or metal, completely made bespoke to your needs. And yeah, so you don't have to do planning permission. You count as an RV, so a motorhome. So you basically just have to make sure that it's roadworthy. And the in Australia, in every country it's a little bit different. In Australia, it seems like our rules are a bit more relaxed than in America. So you can go up to about 12.5 metres, I think, in length with a trailer. However, you would have to be able to tow it with like a towing vehicle or a large vehicle. So if you want to be able to tow it with a kind of a hardcore car, kind of like a Toyota, kind of Land Cruiser kind of car, but yeah, still a kind of family car, then the measurements that we're actually going to go for is a 7.2 metre by 2.4 metre trailer. That's around about 23 feet long, I think. And it doesn't seem that much to be able to live in full time, but actually, if you're kind of careful with the spaces, you can just get the most beautiful home. And also, most of them have lofts as well, so it's a kind of 2-storey dwelling, and that's what we will do. We'll have a sleeping loft and also possibly a storage loft. So I would love to share with you that process as well. I'll probably have separate videos closer to the time where I talk about the tiny house build. But it is, I mean, this is a creative podcast, and it's going to be one of the most creative big projects that I have ever made. I'll be making it with my partner Tom. So that's going to be in the works, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. Again, I'll do separate videos relating to the tiny house, but I might well do kind of updates as we are going to be starting the designing process very soon. I've already started looking into the trailers and just kind of the laws around it. So that's very exciting, and I can't wait to share more about that with you. But that is one of the reasons that I was sharing that I need to be quite careful with the kind of amounts of things that I own, and it's a blessing in disguise really, because I actually notice a huge difference with how I feel by how much stuff I have accumulated. When I moved to Australia 6 years ago, 6 years in November, I came with a 60-litre backpack, so like a big backpack and hand luggage, and that's all that I brought with me. And I had, I think, 2 boxes of things at my mum's attic, and I chucked out everything else. And that was just the most liberating experience ever. And since that point, I have collected things, but not as much as you would think, because we travel around so much. We basically want to be able to move all of our stuff in one carload. So I had collected more things, and now I've brought it back down, so all of my clothes fit in 2 jumbo clothes and shoes fit in 2 jumbo tubs. And yeah, I'll be probably doing more chucking out as we get closer to the move-in date for the tiny house. So that's very, very exciting, and it's a really good excuse to look at what I am making very, very carefully, and to only create things that I will wear and I will love wearing and are worthy of the space that they'll be taking up. I also plan on making more things for as gift knits as well, and kind of sharing my love of knitting with my loved ones, which is a really nice way of kind of knitting but also not taking up too much space. It'll also have a huge impact on how much yarn I decide to stash, and also fabrics as well, because I'm going to have very limited space that I'm going to be able to store things. So yeah, I've already kind of got into the mindset of using up my stash that I have already. I've got quite a lot of plans to work through my stash and also give away anything that I don't think I'll be using. I have got some beautiful stash, but I've also got kind of things that I've just picked up along the way, kind of for cheap, and I don't know that I will keep or use. So I will be sending them off to new homes in the not too distant future. But yeah, I just wanted to share you that exciting news. I'm really looking forward to, well, the process has kind of begun already, because I'm basically in the saving up, money making side of the process, and also kind of the designing side as well. So that's really exciting. And we kind of knew that as soon as our travel phase came to an end, that would be our next kind of goal, I guess you would say. So yes, I'm so excited to share that journey with you, and please let me know if you're interested in videos about that. I think I will separate them quite a lot, just so that if you're only interested in the knitting, that's what you can learn about, and then if you're interested in tiny houses and the build and the designing phase, then you can watch those videos, probably on the same channel, so they'll all be on my Creative Naturally podcast channel. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that you have a lovely day, that you're in a warm, springy, summery part of the world, or if you're all cozied up in the autumny part of the world like I am. It's actually really nice to have an excuse to get all bundled up in knits. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in another couple of weeks once I'm all settled in Melbourne. And I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram. I'm Bex_in real life, and if there's any projects that or patterns that you're interested in, you can check the down bar below for the pattern names, and you can also check out my projects on Ravelry. I'm Rebecca SJS on Ravelry. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye.